Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Corey.
This time in person.
Yeah, we actually got the whole setup here today.
Yeah. Hey, my name's Corey Ashby. I'm the owner of Emsight, and I'm here with Ryan.
Yep, I'm Ryan Flournoy, founder of Flow Throw, and we're breaking down some throws today.
All right. Today I have a special video. This one's actually of you.
It is.
And we did this back in April, and let's get into it.
Right about as my foot hits the ground. Yeah, right there. Yep. I'm already kind of pronating forward a little bit. Go right there.
Back a little bit or right
No,
there?
that works. Yeah, that's good enough.
Okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll get one more. Yeah, you can go right there. It's mainly just to look at the jab angle because that's a little higher than I think we'd like it to be.
Okay, so we have kind of as you're entering, this is, so just remind us of the different phases here again. So this is, you've come up on your approach, and I guess, where are you right here?
Yeah, so I'm about to extend into the penultimate in my drive phase right now. So right now, as you can already see, is my right arm, I'm a righty, my right arm is dropping substantially lower than where it needs to be. My wrist is angled a little higher than where it should be. And that knee, my right knee, really should be coming further. You want to cover as much ground without jumping as you possibly can on that drive phase.
Okay, so between here and here. So it just crossed over.
Right, yep. So I realistically probably only covered 2.5 feet, where I need to get that to 3.5 feet.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we can go to the second frame.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so as I'm setting up, you can tell I'm still very relaxed. I'm looking at my left wrist, trying to keep my chest up. I'm not going to crash. But right now, my right knee, my back knee needs to be way more bent as I'm starting to come into this setting up for the penultimate. You can see it as I go into the third frame, but
so let's just bring it back. So
yeah.
At that point where we stopped it, it's static, so we're not seeing everything fully.
Right.
So I'm pulling it back a few frames.
Perfect.
So, okay.
Yeah, this approach was very slow. There was not a lot of speed on this one.
Okay. And something I remember you saying last video is about, this foot being at 3 o'clock versus a little bit more.
1:30-ish.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Yeah, you want to try and run forward versus, you call it crossovers, but you don't want to run this way. You want to run this way.
Right.
Right.
So we kind of got our way up to this frame.
Yep. Yeah, so it's okay. I mean, again, you can tell it's very relaxed. This is kind of setting up the position. The jab angle is not where I would like it to be. I was throwing high a lot this day, so keeping that critical angle of about 30, 33 degrees going into your penultimate so you can release around 37 to 39. It's about where you want to be at.
Let's just take a quick look and see what the measurement tools say. So,
so already, if I released at that angle, it would be golden. That would be great.
It's like 39 pretty much.
But the fact that I started there, again, it's going to drop probably another 5 to 10 degrees, which you can see as I go to release. I was in the midst of trying different techniques, so I didn't really have any one thing I was sticking to. So
that's okay. And the part of practice is exploring, figuring out, and then honing in on what does work.
Right. Yep. So as I'm setting up I'm going to pause it right there. My right foot, obviously, I am trying to pull that ground underneath me to set up to keep my upper body closed as long as possible, meaning I'm staying looking at this wrist. And then as I go to set that foot down, I'm opening up my chest while leaving my throwing arm behind me.
Right.
So, but again, as you can tell here,
It's dropped.
my
more
elbow
again.
has dropped, my wrist is opened.
Now, in this phase or in this position, ideally would this arm be straight, or is it okay to have it bent here?
So it's okay to have a little bend, but realistically, you want the jab angle to be still right by your eye at this point, which we've lost that.
And so in that short span of time, I didn't start so gone up about 3. Actually,
about
3 to
degrees.
4 degrees.
Yeah.
So between here and here,
About half a second. Yep. Okay. Yeah, and as we start to close down on what the ideal timing looks like, we need to increase our speed. Obviously, feet need to be quicker while maintaining our composure for the actual technique. But the faster you go, the more likely you are to break that technique. And again, in the midst of trying different things, you pick up one thing and you lose 3 other things. So,
but again, these are I'm just repeating things you've already said to me before. About practicing until you can't get it wrong.
Right.
And so I think as athletes mature, we're all in the midst of that. Okay, we found something that works, but how do we drill it and practice it so that when day comes and we need to perform, we're less likely to do it incorrectly.
Right.
And our chances of doing it spot on the day of competition when we need it to happen is just much higher.
Yeah.
Because we'll never be perfect all the time. But if you're 80% of the time doing it this way, then that gives you a lot better chances.
If you're thinking during your run-up, the throw's dead. There's no point. You may as well go restart. So, as we get into this picture, again, the block leg in the front is stagnant, so you can't see it on the recording. But what you can see is my chest starting to come forward. I pulled down and away versus pulling forward.
So let's just see this motion so the audience can kind of see what you're talking about.
Right. Yep. So I begin to pull away, not detrimental, but with that comes pull away. This arm is going to elevate, which means the jab angle is going to drastically increase. If we go to that next frame and we go and we compute the jab angle right at release point right there, it's probably above, I would say, 47, 48.
All right.
Let me see, maybe even 50.
That's close to 50.
It's close to 50.
Right there. Yeah. 50 degrees.
Yeah, so I went from 38, which is ideal going into the penultimate, to releasing at around 50. So
a lot can change in, 200 milliseconds.
Right, yeah.
And that's a short amount of time, but again, like you're saying, everything's happening very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of fall away. And again, most guys, most elite guys, they do end up doing that where they will fall away. But in the midst of this, the javelin angle.
So when you say fall away, what do you mean exactly?
So I mean because you want to pull the javelin from behind you, right? So as we go to open up, the entire point is to have that stretch reflex.
Have you come this way?
All the way. Yeah, sure. So as we are going into our penultimate here, we're trying to stay closed in our upper body as long as possible. And as our block leg hits, we go to open up. It becomes this pulling motion where we want to leave our arm behind us as long as we can, right? We're trying to create that slingshot. That's where that C position comes in. So it turns into this, which is now a heavily core activated, highly stretched reflex right here. So getting to this position at a top speed, I even feel the stretch right now. It's not comfortable to stay in this position. Yeah. So trying to hit it where you're meeting that criteria in 0.2 of a second. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to build up to it. A lot of med ball, a lot of training.
And the fall away is, when you say fall away, in my mind, I'm looking at the the finishing part of the javelin where it looks like they're actually falling.
Right.
Because that's not what you're talking about, though, is it? Or
No,
something?
so
Okay.
I'm taught, so everybody has their own technique, right? There's
Yeah,
niche ways to do it. Everybody's got a little bit of a twist. In this sense, what I mean falling away is pulling away from my
Okay.
body versus pulling and stretching this way and then moving forward.
Okay.
So there's kind of two ways to do
I
it.
see
Like
what
if I
you're
face the
saying, yeah.
camera, in this video, I'm pulling down.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as dramatic as that because I fixed that over the years. But instead of rotating here, following through the top and then finishing forward.
Got it.
Kind of
Okay.
keeping, it's an arrow. You want to keep everything in that direction. The more
Right.
drag, the more resistance you have, the more energy you're wasting.
Right.
So that's all what it comes down to. That's the difference between a 62 and a 68 meter throw.
Yeah.
That's
Now, some little details I do like about these cameras. One of the things that I've been interested in, and it might be very nuanced, but I've been really interested in the placement and the knee angle at
Yes.
release. So
Right.
coming into release. So that's something that a lot of high professional athletes will track as part of
Right.
their coaching and metrics. And one of the things that I noticed here, and something that I'm developing with Emsight, is understanding how this visualization can give us a better understanding of what's going on with the body.
Right.
So as things move more quickly, we see that they're highlighted a little bit more brightly.
right.
The speed at which something is moving corresponds and correlates with the contrast changes we see in the video.
Absolutely.
So if I play this here, as your foot comes into contact with the ground,
It disappears.
It disappears.
Right.
Now, as you start to rotate over, I can start seeing your calf highlight and the back of your leg highlight right here on the bottom,
Right.
which tells me that you do have some rotation going on.
Yes.
And I think that's something where we can start to look at speed of rotation, because that would also tell me how much energy you're transferring over through that throw as
Absolutely.
you're pulling through.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm interested in developing more, seeing if that's something where we can help athletes understand how efficiently their body mechanics are working towards getting all of that energy into the throw.
Absolutely.
And
That's
so
what
I
we're
was-
here for.
Yeah, and I was glad to see that highlighting on the back. I was like, is he rotating over? I'm not sure
Right.
how much, but
Yeah.
I was able to see some of that.
You
And,
get a glimpse of it right at the end.
Yeah.
It's not very drastic, but again,
Yeah.
just comes with time and repetition.
Yeah.
The whole point of this is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So we're giving you a baseline, and you don't want to build bad habits.
Right.
So if you go out there, you could do 100 throws, but if 98 of them were bad, you're bringing on bad habits.
Exactly.
And then you've got to work harder to undo those bad habits.
And feedback is critical to understanding what those
Right.
good or bad habits are.
Exactly.
And I
Right.
think that's why we're here.
Yeah. One thing I heard the other day, javelin's easy to pick up. There are 100 ways to throw 50 meters, but there's only 20 ways to throw 70 meters. There's only 10 ways to throw
Right.
80 meters, and there's only 3 ways to throw 90 meters.
Right.
So you can pick it
Yeah.
up and you can find success early. If you got an arm and you know how to control that angle. My first meet, I threw a 43, and I've been practicing for a week and a half.
Yeah.
So it's all about, do you want to build the foundation now, or do you want to make up for it later?
Yeah.
And that's
I love how, so it's interesting because the more I've gotten into sports from my engineering background, the more in depth someone is in their sport, the more their analogies reflect a lot of the engineering and science that I've learned over the years.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that you just mentioned reminds me a lot of like information theory. So for example, we think of like information as in terms of energy. That's also another metric of showing energy.
Sure.
But for example, if you knock a bookcase over and it makes a big mess, there are books scattered all over the floor. It's hard to remember really like the order of all those books because a mess is a mess.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
But there are only so many ways you can put the bookcase back correctly.
Right.
And so that analogy to me is like reminiscent of what you're learning. The amount of information you've stored in organizing and that throw properly to get the effect you want
Absolutely.
is directly a measure of information in your knowledge of the sport and what you're doing.
100%.
So it's beautiful that these two things,
Yeah, we meet in the middle
yeah,
somewhere.
like, right,
Yep.
it's all a science. The throw is a science, how we analyze it is a science, and I think the athletes who really excel understand that, yes, there are only a few ways to really do it correctly.
Right.
Not that we can't have innovation in the future, but like Ryan Krauser, for example, he's made some little changes, right?
Yep.
They're subtle changes to him,
Yep.
but they translate to
they're
something
big
bigger,
differences.
right?
Absolutely.
But there are only so many ways to be Ryan Krauser,
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
Sure. And some of it comes in the weight room, but
Yeah.
a lot of it is it's technique. And again, this is this isn't football. You're not going to get devastatedly injured, but there are a lot of injuries that still happen when trying to hit these positions at such high speeds.
Yeah.
I played football, I've been injured, and this was kind of a fallback where I wasn't getting injured nearly as much, but it's the smaller things where if you don't train right, you don't let your body adapt to these unique positions, unique angles, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So how do you build it from the ground up to something where 2 years from now, once you're training, do you have 2 years that you have to make back time, or do you have 2 years working towards the next 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
this was great, Corey.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. I think that's good.
Cool. Yeah.